Do we really need another nerd on YouTube talking about scale models and watching paint dry? No. No, we don't. But we're going to do it anyway. What's up, everybody? I'm Javi from Jet Black Scale Models. Maybe you see my work on Instagram, maybe you haven't, but that's not important. What is important is today we're going to be reviewing the new Atom by Ammo Metallic Acrylic colors and see if they really are comparable to lacquers as advertised. So let's rock and roll. Let me start off by saying that I purchased these paints with my own money, so I really don't owe anyone anything. So let's compare the Atom Metallic Acrylics to Tamiya's LP11. Let me introduce you to the Cube of Learning. Since this is my first video, this might be a recurring thing, it might not. We'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, while most modelers have a dedicated paint mule, I have the Cube that I use for testing paints, decals, and any other random stuff that I might want to experiment with before committing to my build. I first created a demarcation line with a strip of Tamiya tape to separate the two paints. I'm kicking things off with a LP11 silver that I thinned down with Mr. Leveling Thinner at a ratio of 2 parts paint to 1 part thinner. Although my paint coverage here isn't all that great, the paint came out of my airbrush silky smooth and the LP11 pigment is extremely fine and almost invisible to the naked eye. And now the real reason why you're probably watching this extremely nerdy video, the Atom Metallic Acrylics. Since this paint is brand new to me, like so new this is actually the first time I'm using it, I thinned it down to a ratio of 1:1 using Ammo's acrylic thinner. You're probably screaming at your TV, why would you thin it down that much? Well, settle down. I'm trying to spray it at a less than ideal situation. Most acrylics thin down this much pretty much turn into color-tinted water, while lacquers thin down to a 1:1 ratio continue to do their thing with no issues at all. With all the advertising I've seen on social media comparing these acrylics to lacquers, in this case, I can confirm the Atom acrylic sprayed out of my airbrush just as smooth as the LP11. The Atom acrylic silver is a little brighter and warmer in tone compared to the LP11, so do what you want with that information. The one area where the LP11 comes out on top by a pretty wide margin is the fineness of the pigments. The silver pigment in the Atom acrylics is definitely more noticeable, but still light years better than most of the acrylics I've used in the past. I'm looking at you Vallejo and Mission models, and even the original Ammo acrylics. Even though the metallic pigments are slightly more noticeable than the LP11 silver, I would still have no problem using the Atom metallics on a bare metal P51 or P47. And considering the poor quality of other metallic acrylics have been what's keeping me from wanting to build a P51 or P47, I'd definitely call that a win. Now for the stress test. We all know that lacquers are pretty much ready to rock and roll the moment they hit the plastic, but how does the Atom acrylic stack up? Let's do the tape test first. I did my best to really burnish down Tamiya tape with my finger and a silicone brush. And boy howdy, let me tell you, was I pretty surprised when there was zero traces of pigment that lifted off from the Atom acrylic side. And now for the scratch test. Once again, the lacquers were rock hard, and with only the slightest discoloration when I scratched the crap out of it. The Atom acrylics, on the other hand, not great, but also not terrible. And the fact that these only had about 15 minutes to dry is still pretty impressive. I know, you're probably screaming at your TV again saying, I want to see it on a model! Well, relax, because I got you covered there too. Here I'm spraying the Atom acrylic silver over flat black Stynylrez primer. Why flat black instead of gloss black? Because this will be for my chipping layer on my Edward Zero, which you can follow along with my progress over on Instagram at Jet Black Scale Models. Anyway, the chipping layer doesn't need to be super bright or glossy since I'm going to weather the bejesus out of it. Knowing what to expect this time around with the Atom metallics, I thinned the paint down to a 2:1 ratio of paint to thinner, and it's still sprayed out of my airbrush silky smooth. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and hypothesize that for whatever reason, because I was spraying over a flat primer coat, that the particles of the silver pigment were not as noticeable as on the Cube, which had a gloss black primer coat. And now I sprayed the LP11 on the left side of my Zero just to see how both paints compare to each other. The pigments on the LP11 were still noticeably finer than the Atom acrylics, but not by much if I'm being honest. So do the Atom acrylics really compare to lacquers? Sure, why not? I mean, it's really not fair to compare non-lacquer paints to lacquer paints because they'll never really be the same. It's like trying to compare Dr. Pepper to Dr. Pibb. It's close enough, but one will never be the other. On the other hand, if you don't want a stinky work area, and you don't want to have to deal with all the VOCs that come along with cleaning up after using lacquers, then I definitely recommend the Atom acrylics, especially over any other acrylics out there on the market. Well, there you have it. First Jet Black Scale model video in the books, or on the Internet? YouTube? Not really a book, is it? Oh well. So thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If there's any ways I can improve, feel free to let me know. And see you all next time. Bye-bye.